Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. I have a little quote I want to read you. I think that is very appropriate for what's going on with the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and the rulings on the Second Amendment, especially the New York Rifle and Pistol Association, also known as NYSRPA, versus Bruen in the state of New York. And that's the now famous or infamous, if you're anti-gun, decision that said whatever is in the text and the history and the tradition of America at the time the Constitution was written is what it means. Now, I want to read this quote that I found interesting. And it says, on every question of construction, that is, construction of the Constitution and what the pieces that are, let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. Recollect the spirit manifested in the debates. What does that mean? That means that there was a lot of debate and argument over what should and should not be included and how the Constitution should be written, what words should be used. This went on for quite a while. They didn't just wake up one morning and write something down. So we're talking about back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. Recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, because there were heated debates about all kinds of things. The end result, however, of those debates is the Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights and all the other things, but the Bill of Rights specifically. And instead of trying what meaning might be squeezed out of the text, in other words, come up with something yourself, or invent it against it. In other words, I don't agree with the text in the Constitution, so I'm going to make shit up. Let's conform to the probable one in which it was passed. In other words, what was written then had meaning then, and the meaning still stands. Now, that was President Thomas Jefferson. This is very similar to the logic used by the current Supreme Court and Justice Thomas in his opinion. So there are a lot of people that dislike what's in the Constitution, especially presidents. Presidents don't like the Constitution because it gets in their way. It gets in their way. People in power don't like the Constitution because it gets in their way. And so, and there are so-called progressives, or people who want things to be different. They want things to be different. And they believe that because there's more of them that want something to be different, that they have a voice that can overturn the meaning of the Constitution and the text, especially in the Bill of Rights. And this relates to all of them, all of the Bill of Rights. But with respect to the Second Amendment, there are people who now are terrified that in one writing in the Hill rag, there was an op-ed, an opinion piece, where the writer says the NYSRPA versus Bruen decision by the Supreme Court has set the United States on a course for suicide of the country. Now, what they mean is that who knows what they mean. But there are going to be more and more people who are armed in America because they have a right to be, and they will be armed in public. Now, there are those, you can rail against that, or you can go back and understand that that is exactly what is supposed to happen. People have a choice. They have a choice to be armed or not. and they have a choice to be armed in public or not, and it's for their defense and any other defense that comes along. That's just the law of the land. And the people that don't want that to happen, they have an ulterior motive that is not good when it comes to the American people. So Justice Thomas got it right. He is supported by President Thomas Jefferson, who was one of the people who signed and helped write the Constitution. And I think we all need to take a breath and accept that there were some pretty smart people. They weren't racist, yes. Some were slaveholders, yes. So what? So what? They were talking about the country. The country. And there were fierce arguments, by the way, over slavery. Right? I mean, the country almost never got born because of slavery, because the southern states wanted to keep it, and they would not sign into creating a country where they couldn't have slaves. And the decisions were, unfortunately, to kick the can. And it was 100 years later that somebody picked up the can and started doing something with it in this country. Just as an aside, my family is from Richmond, Virginia, from one of the largest slave plantations in the country at that time, in Richmond. So who knows what my family tree would look like if slavery had been abolished at the time that the Constitution was written and the nation was formed. Who knows? I can't deal with that now. What I'm saying is that the words in the Constitution matter. Because you don't like it, you don't change it in your mind and say, well, if you want to change the Constitution, you can. It's very, very difficult to do on purpose. But don't start creating stupid laws, because then they will get struck down like what is starting to happen with the anti-Second Amendment laws that are taking place today. So that's my contribution about the text of the Constitution today. History is your friend, right? So with that, if you like the content, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get reminders. Share this if you think it's shareable. I got 400 and some videos out there. By the way, I'm this close to 10,000 subscribers. I'd like to make that before I die. So will y'all please share, say, hey, I found this. You know what I'm saying. Help me out. All right. So that's my story this morning. I'm sticking to it. It's winter, so y'all have a good time. We got 24 shopping days left till Christmas. Enjoy and carry on.